Hi everyone, welcome back for another Cats Creations design. Today we're going to do a fall welcome pumpkin for 2022. This is using a non-traditional color of sage and green, using a 10-inch round sign from Personalize It by Pam. She's on Etsy. So I've already got the 14-inch Dollar Tree wreath frame already wired up. So let me explain what I did. So there are 6 sections on this 14-inch wreath frame, and each of the 6 sections you're going to put 3 pipe cleaners. You're going to start by putting 1 and wiring together the 2 innermost rings, and then that helps create some stability on your frame so they don't move around. But that'll give you 6 on the inside, and then you're also going to add 2 to the outside in each section. Just like you can see here. So let's start. I'm using this new deco mesh that is from Craft Outlet. It is called a Sage and Green Fabric Check Burlap. So we're going to do the ruffle method. Each of these 18 pieces is going to be cut to 20-inch pieces. And I'm simply going to lay them, starting with my inside pipe cleaner, edges to the inside. Give it a couple twists. Just like that. We're going to go ahead and do that in all 18 sections. And look at that gorgeous base. Isn't that just beautiful? So I'm going to put the last one together. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this ruffle. I'm so in love with this deco mesh. It's just gorgeous. Some of my favorite to work with is fabric mesh. Gonna add it to the last one. Give that a couple twists. And then make sure it's all fluffed out. Just like that. And now we're going to be ready to add the rest of our embellishments to our base. So we're going to go ahead and add ribbon tails and half bows. So I'm going to show you the pairing that I'm going to do. We're using this 14-inch green and white plaid, and then we're going to come in with 1.5 inch ribbon cut to 19-inch pieces. I'm going to put the pumpkin on top of the plaid. That's this pairing. Both of these can be found at Craft Outlet. And then we're going to use this 2.5 inch pumpkins, white pumpkins on tan, cut to 14-inch pieces. And then this sage and white cut to 19-inch pieces. The sage and white stripe is from Greenery Market, whereas the pumpkins on tan is from Craft Outlet. So we're going to go in and start with our ribbon tails. We're going to fold them in half to find the center, and then you're just going to pinch the center. Place that right inside the pipe cleaner. Give it a couple twists, and then you're going to want to make sure you fan that to the outside. Just like so. And then we're going to go ahead and take our 1.5 inch, fold it in half, come out about 2 inches. So I'm just going to show you real quick. So you fold your 1.5 inch into, and then we're just going to go up about 2 inches, pinch in, and then you're just going to lay that right inside your, right on top of your 14-inch ribbon. Okay, then you're always going to have to right side one of your 1.5 inch tails. And I like to just make it so you can see both ribbons. And I'm going to leave the pipe cleaner on there because we're going to utilize that for an embellishment at the end. So let's get our green plaid, fold it in half, find the center, go ahead and gather, place it inside the pipe cleaner, give it a couple twists, make sure you fan it to the outside. It always wants to, when you lay them in there, kind of fold down like divots down. So you want to make sure you bring your fingers up underneath the ribbon and make sure that those fluff outward. And then we're going to take the cream with the pumpkins, fold it in half, 2 inches from the top. We're going to pinch in, lay it inside the pipe cleaner, couple twists. Go ahead and right side one of our tails, open the loop, and then make sure your tails are all fanned back out. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, we are all finished with that. I'm going to put the wreath aside and we're going to make our bow. So I like to use the bow dabra. And I bring out all of my ribbon rolls and then I can kind of like lay them out to decide what colors, what patterns do I want to be on top? What's the next one? So let's pull the rest of these. We're going to introduce a orange and white diagonal plaid. I have a green and white plaid ribbon, which does match the sign. It's a little lighter, but there are varying shades in the sign. And both of those can be picked up from Craft Outlet. Now I have very little left of that orange with the pumpkin on it. So let me restack these ribbons and try to come up with a pattern that would make sense. I like to break up the greens, and I think that's going to be the pattern. So this is my recipe for making a 11-inch diameter bow. And that's just measuring them from the loops. So we're going to start by dovetailing the ends, which is just bring your wired edges together. And then you're going to cut from the folded side to the wired point. And that gives you a nice finished look. So we're going to set this out so that our tail length is 10 inches wide or long. We're going to twist, place it inside the bow dabra. We're going to flip this around and we're going to make sure that our loop size is 5.5 inches. So from the center of the bow dabra, I line it up on the 10-inch line, stretch it out. It's a little longer. So we're going to pull this in to where we have 5.5 inches. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Just like that. We'll go ahead and pull that back out 10 inches. And then we'll go ahead and cut this. And then we'll dovetail our ends. Just like that. First one down. I like to store my ribbon using straight pins and just kind of place those inside. Mine are no more than 1 inch. Some of them are sold like 1.5 inches, but those are just way too long. So it just keeps your ribbon looking nice. Although this one kind of got folded. Let me fix that. And we're done. Taking our next ribbon, which is going to be the tan with the pumpkins. Now on this one, you have a vertical design, which means that some of your pumpkins are going to be upside down, some of them are going to be right side up. Really, the only way that you can do that is if you have a horizontal design, you can kind of manipulate the ribbon so that you get an even, consistent look. On a design like this, really the only thing that you could do if you want to make them all kind of come out straight is make one loop and a tail and then make the other loop and a tail. But the problem with that is when the customer goes to grab it and fluff it, they're going to pull the loops apart. So I prefer just to do it this way. So let's dovetail the end. We're going to do 9.5 inches. And this ribbon has painted on pumpkins, so pinching that in can be a little challenging. And we are going to measure, so you can see how tough that is, 5 inches for the loop size. Just make sure everything is consistent. 5 inches to the other side. Little tough getting that in there. The painted edge doesn't like to twist. And then again, back out to 9.5 inches. Dovetail cut. And then this one is finished. We'll go ahead and secure this one with a pin. And then always clean up. So we're ready for our 1.5 ribbon right now. So this one, we have very little, so we're going to save that for the top. I always like to put the pretty print on top because it's the first ribbon you see when you look at the bow. Dovetail cut. And then this one is going to measure 9 inches. Pinch in, twist, place inside the Bodabra. These ones are going to be 4.5 inch loops for the 1.5 ribbon. Make sure you've got it on both sides. And then we're back out to 9 inches. Oop, pulled that one, but let's go ahead and do our dovetail. And then we'll readjust the loop. Okay, that one's in the books. Now we're ready for our next one. We're going to do the orange and white diagonal. You can get this at Craft Outlet as well. This is another paint on ribbon, which means it's going to be a little stiff. The tail length is 8.5 inches. Pinch that in as best as we can. Slide it in. And this one's going to be another 4.5 inch ribbon loop. So you can kind of cheat, put your fingers in the top, since we know the bottom one's already at 4.5 inches. Just give it a pull and a tug. Do the same on the other side. That way we don't have to measure it. And then we do need to do the tails, which is back out 8.5 inches. Dovetail cut. And there we go. Go ahead and secure this one. Grab our pieces, toss those in the trash. And then we're going to add our pin. If you get into making good habits while you're building your wreaths, then you can almost make these without really putting much thought into it because your routine that you've developed is the same with every single bow that you make. If you do the same pattern, we're going to go ahead and use this one. I love this. This is a nice canvas. It is from the Greenery Market, and you can pick that up through their website, but you do have to be a wholesaler. Okay, So we're going to do 8 inches for this, but we're going to do our dovetail ends. So great habits. We're going to pinch this in, twist, and our loop size is going to be 4 inches for the loops. Twist, place inside. Be consistent on your measurements. People always ask what's the hint for turning out great bows. Just being super consistent on your measurements. Okay, let's go ahead and tighten that down. Twist it up and over. Right side our tail and back out to 8 inches. And then we'll go ahead and cut this one. Nice finished edge. Get this one put away. Clean up our scraps. And then we have one more to go. So let's hope we have enough to finish this bow. There is very little on here, but we'll try. So, dovetail edge. And then let's cut this. 7.5 inches will be our ribbon length. And we're going to do 3.5 inch loop. Oop, starting to feel that getting kind of short. Let's hope we can make it. Get that twist in really good. Look, let's hope we have enough. So 3.5 inches, twist. We're there. Let's see if we have enough. We have just enough. So let's take the tape off. Go ahead and finish that edge with a nice cut. And we are done with this ribbon roll. That was my favorite roll of ribbon. Okay. So now we're going to get ready to secure our bow. I'm going to go ahead and clean up these scraps. And then we'll go ahead and grab the fluff board. Get that all up. Ready to go. Let me move this out of the way. Move that pin. Okay. So, my fluff board was designed by a friend. This is a 24 inch by 24 by 1 inch thick. It just makes for a really nice bow presentation. I'm going to take a pipe cleaner and bend that into a U shape. That way when I go ahead and pull all this ribbon up, I'm going to grab my pipe cleaner, go ahead and hold that down nice and tight. Give it some twists. I like using pipe cleaners because the older you get, you start to lose some of your hand strength. And then it just makes it so much easier. But you can use floral wire. You can use a zip tie. I'm going to go ahead and secure this with the C-hook that I already have screwed into my board. So we just slide our pipe cleaner into that, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so the easiest way to fluff your board or to fluff your bow is going to be, we're going to start from the top stack And you're just going to lift this up and you're going to move your loop to one side and your tail to the other side. Okay, loop one side, tail the other side. It doesn't matter which way you go, just as long as you start one on each end. But then when you go to the bottom stack, you're going to do opposite. So we're going to do tail to the left, loop to the right. They're directly opposite each other. Then we're going to go ahead and take the next ribbon down. So we're going to put the loop to the right, tail to the left. And then on the bottom, they are opposites. So now we have our pattern staggering. Loops and tails are completely separate. Now, if I wanted to bring this next ribbon down, it's going to be green on green. So as a designer, we can change that up. So I'm going to move this in the same direction as my pumpkins. My loop and my tail are exactly in the same. But whatever I do on the top just has to be opposite on the bottom. I can change those color patterns whenever you want. Just make sure what you do at the top follows through on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to just now pull the orange, flip the orange loops and tails, grab our tail, move our loop over here. Then we're going to take the green. I'm going to do and make that completely opposite. Otherwise, we'd have all green. Oop, wait a second. That didn't look right. Yeah, that just looked really odd. See, sometimes you can totally tell when you're doing something wrong. You just can tell it's like off. So always remember what you do on top, you do on the bottom. So let's just make sure this looks good. And then we're ready to fluff. So we have our tails all on one side, our loops all on one side. We're ready to go. So the first thing you're going to do when you're fluffing is determine if you want your tails the same size as your loops. I like mine to be just as long as the recipe called for so that the tails are going to kind of fall all the way around the ribbon, kind of set themselves apart from the loops. And then you're going to grab the top two and lift, put your fingers inside those loops and give them some life. Pull them up, pull them out. Then we're going to grab the next two colors. The orange is hiding here. Go ahead and make sure that's all right. Let's see, do I want that there? No, I kind of like the orange off to the side of the green. And I'll let the green and white pop up in the side. I've got to make sure these match. Here's my green. I need to move the orange around and pop the green loop up in the center, so that what I do on one side looks the same on the other. It just shows some consistency there. We'll deal with the tails here in a second. So we're going to grab our 2.5 inch, and I like to put about 4 fingers in. I call it my 4-finger loop fluff. So we're just really going to pull and fluff those up. Doing the same thing, you can decide what colors you want to lay where. You're the designer. Whatever works for you is going to be your final design. Do the same on the bottom. Put some love and life in those and move the tails out of the way. Make sure everything's the way you want. And then we can deal with the tails. So this is where you can put your fingers underneath the underside. Keep your thumb on the top and just give them some nice curls. It just makes for a really good looking bow. Just like that. And the 2.5 inch is a little hard to do until you get it on the actual wreath, but look at that. Isn't that just a fun, festive fall bow? Just make sure everything is presented well. We can see all the tail colors. We can see all the loop colors. And there you have it. Nice, pretty bow. Looks great. So I'm going to take this off the same way I put it on. And that's just what that little C-hook looks like. put the board bow away or the fluff board away. We'll get ready to attach our sign, add our bow. Let's pull our wreath back over here. Looks great. Everything's just gonna, it's all gonna flow well. We just want to make sure that everything that we put on the wreath itself is, you can see all the colors, you can see all the ribbon tails, you can see your mesh. So now we're going to prep our sign. We need to add our holes to either side. I'm using a 1.5 millimeter beadsmith metal hole punch. We're going to just pop holes in the side of this, just like that. Works just like a hole punch, but this is metal. You can find these at Hobby Lobby, Joann's, and Michael's in their jewelry section. They're great for adding holes to the metal and earrings, which is why you'll find them in the jewelry section. Or you can pick these up on Amazon. And I like to use floral wire. This is 22 gauge floral wire I picked up at Joann's. You can use pipe cleaners if you want. It's what I first used, but I find that the floral wire will go through the sign a little bit better and go through the deco mesh, especially this fabric mesh. It has a tendency of getting hung up on the fuzzy part of the pipe cleaner. So I'm just going to run my wire through the sign and just make sure that it all is the same length. And then I'm going to start twisting right over the hole on the back. And I'm going to twist it about 5 times. It just gives for a really nice base. The sign will lay flat. Grab the other side, do the exact same thing. I found that if you use this method, your sign will lay flat instead of being like a spinner. So that's just a technique that I have evolved over the time of making wreaths. So there's that little 5 twist ties on my sign. We'll bring this over, and then you have a couple options when it comes to the sign. You could do it in the center. You could go a little bit up at the top, add your bow to the bottom, bring your sign to the bottom, put your bow at the top. It's whatever you like as the design that you have in mind. And sometimes you have to kind of just figure that out as you're, creating your design. I'm going to bring mine a little bit off to the right so that I have space on the top for my bow. I'm going to go ahead and just remove that pipe cleaner from the inside. Snip that off. And then that lines up with the frame on the bottom so that I can go ahead and feed my floral wire down. Making sure that I have a metal rail in between that sign. Gonna pull some of this mesh out of the way so it's not covered on the bottom. I like it to just be fluffy around my sign. So prepping that beforehand just makes it so much easier. And then I'm gonna push my sign down so I can figure out how deep do I want it to go. Give it a couple twists on the back just in case we have to move it. And then let's do the other side. We're going to need to remove our pipe cleaner. Same as before. Here's that. Go ahead and snip that off. Tuck the little tab back down towards the center and then line up our floral wire, making sure that we have it secured to the rail. I don't know how many times I've pushed it through only to find out my wire is on the same side and there's no security of the sign on the back. So just make sure you take that time and do that. Again, couple twists just in case we need to readjust the sign later. Loving the way this is turning out. Okay, Now, sometimes you have to fluff up your loops because in the process of adding your sign, things kind of get smashed here and there. That's the great thing about wired ribbon, is it's so easy to go ahead and fix things. Right here is going to be where I call my bow home. So we're going to go ahead and remove these pipe cleaners that are obviously in the way. Tuck the tail back down. And then I'm going to take this mesh and kind of tuck it under my sign to give my sign some support. It's also going to give my bow a good solid base to be built on, so it's not being elevated by the deco mesh underneath. And we're ready to go and attach it. I'm just going to look, fluff my bow, try to figure out what side do I want. I kind of like the 2.5-inch loops. I like the tails to kind of hang down, straight down along the side. So I'm going to grab my pipe cleaner, make sure my loops are in the right place, and then I'm going to go ahead and attach this underneath the sign. And we'll just kind of, this is where I was saying the floral wire works so much better than the pipe cleaner. Going to just make sure everything's lined up. I'm going to push the center of my bow in so I know exactly how far I need to tighten my bow. Again, another couple twists. Go ahead and fan that out, just like so. And then go ahead and make sure your tails all come down. You can see all the colors of the ribbon that you've used. Go ahead and give them that little extra curl. Do the same at the top so we can still see all the mesh. We can still see all the ribbon. We can see every single color used. Of course, the customer's probably going to, readjust it some more. I'm going to make sure that I pull these loops out of the way so we can still see the welcome. And then just line up whatever it is that you want to see where. Move all your loops around. Okay. So, again, sometimes you have to do a couple little readjustments, and those spaces on the green and white stripe, we're going to add some raffia to this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these out. Sometimes they don't all line up. I'm going to bring my ends together, try to find 3 good pieces, fairly decent lengths. That one's a little too short. There we go, that should work. Start with the ends all together, and then we're just going to wrap them back and forth, about 6-inch pieces, just kind of winding them back and forth on top of each other till we get to the end. I like to take these little bundles, and we're going to tuck these right underneath that sage and cream ribbon. Give it a couple twists. Go ahead and snip this off. And then we're going to take that little tail, tuck it right behind our loop. You have the option, you can cut your raffia and have it open. I like to just have these nice little bundles. Some people like to have the raffia, longer tails, a little bit more of a wild look, but I like things a little bit more contained. But I feel like the raffia adds just the right look. I keep waiting for someone to put raffia on a roll because trying to work with it in the bag is a little tiresome. Trying to find exactly the same length that you need. Exactly. And we're going to do the same here. We have about 6 of these little bundles that we're going to add. You can choose to add them through the rest of your design if you'd like. I just want to add these to the pumpkin part because it's kind of like the little vines of the pumpkin. And then we're just going to fluff up our ribbons as we work our way around this design. Grab a couple more pieces. Raffia just works really, really well if you're trying to make a rustic country fall wreath. I like to keep raffia on hand because I use it in a lot of my farmhouse designs. I'll use it in my chicken wreaths, to add the straw for the nest. Hobby Lobby also carries the raffia in 3 different colors. You can get it in a bundle that contains orange, yellow, and brown. Those are great colors to have on hand, just so you have a variety of raffia to choose from. And then they also sell it in bundles of 3 at Hobby Lobby. I know somebody said, do you think Dollar Tree is going to carry it this year? I'm not really sure. But Dollar Tree is surprising me with a lot of their new products that they are carrying. I can't wait to show you one of them that we'll be using as an embellishment for this wreath. And Dollar Tree is really stepping up their game, so I have a feeling a lot more of us will be shopping from their stores because their products are just so much nicer than we've come to expect. So, but you can also order your raffia from Amazon. Amazon sells them in bundles of 6. That's just another option for purchasing your raffia. I'm sure there's other places that carry them. I think somebody had mentioned on our Facebook Live that Paper Mart actually carries raffia on a roll, but I've yet to check that, so I will make sure and get back with you guys and let you know. 2 more bundles on this, and so I've got one right here. I'm just fluffing my bows, double checking, whatever I want to do as far as placement goes. Let's grab a couple more pieces. Hopefully we can get some long ones. Here's a couple more. Let's try one more. Got a couple pieces. Sometimes it's too thin, and I try to blend some thick pieces with some of the thinner pieces. This should work. And let's make one more bundle. We'll tuck that in. I like the way this just kind of adds that rustic element to this design. Quick snip, tuck it around behind, just like that. And then, yes, even though some people would like to do a shortcut because nobody's going to look under the bow, I prefer to make sure that the design goes all the way through. So we're going to tuck the last little bundle in just under the bow. This should do it. Last little bundle. We'll lift our bow up. Tuck this one under. That way, if the customer ever was to go through the wreath, I always encourage customers to do that. Sometimes I like to hide cute little surprises in my designs, carry those little embellishment themes all the way through. And then we will clean up this mess. Raffia is definitely messy, but storing it in the bag definitely works. So once I pull the roll apart, just sticking it in a Ziploc bag just kind of contains that mess. These are way too short. So there we go. Now it's going to be time to add some pumpkins that I found at the Dollar Tree. And I am really impressed with Dollar Tree's selection. So I've tucked the 3 in, kind of where I want them to go, but I feel like they need some leaves. So let's fix our loops. So looking at the picture shows a lot of the pumpkin leaves. I'm going to use this ivy, and I have a couple pieces where it's paired together. Some smaller leaves, some larger leaves. I got this from Garland from Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to pick these up, kind of put my ivy leaves in place, put the pumpkin back on, kind of seeing, hey, do you like the way that looks before we go ahead and make that a permanent? And I like to not make my pumpkins just lay flat. I like them to kind of be angled. We're going to, I love that look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pairing with some hot glue here. Move all this stuff out of the way. We're going to take our glue gun. This is set on hot. I'm going to just add a little dab of glue right to the end. That's going to get tucked inside that little hole so that the leaves will kind of fan out, just like that. Don't want it to really impose upon my sign. Going to grab my little pumpkin, put a big dollop of glue on the end, and I'm going to tuck that right in and kind of angle it off to the side, just like that. I need to hold it because I'm afraid if I don't, it's just going to kind of pop out of the way. Just a couple more seconds. Let that set up. Okay, we're good. Let's go ahead and glue the other side. Same thing, glue the pairing on the bottom. We'll tuck this in, and then we can open the leaves, make last minute adjustments. This way it ties the pumpkins into the sign, into the sage green color, the avocado color we have going. Let's add a little bit more glue. Go ahead and put it on the very bottom of our pumpkin. Kind of tuck that in. See what I'm saying? Just kind of angle them different ways so our pumpkins are not facing all in the same direction, kind of one off to the side. And then we'll go ahead and do the top one. Again, make sure you make any last minute adjustments. And I'm going to just tuck my sign down, glue our leaves. We're going to plop those down, open them up, put some glue on the bottom of our pumpkin. Kind of tuck that one in off to the side. So, and it's kind of looking the same as the other one, but again, it's just kind of nice if they're not just all laying flat, staring at you. Do some last minute adjustments here on our loops, on our tails, whatever you'd like to see. I personally think that this came out great. I'm super happy with this design. I can't wait to get this hung up on our door and get some pictures taken. And there you have it. Another fall wreath ready to go.